Hey guys, thanks for joining me. Today I'll just be doing a voiceover for this yoga flow. I'm just getting settled here on the mat and going into a forward fold. And then just with folding my arms to get a deeper stretch. I'll just kind of talk through a bit about how I got started in this flow and then, kind of what I'm doing, I guess. Yeah. So, I hope you enjoy this video. Here I'm getting ready to move into a downward dog, just walking my hands out. You can see my heels are up still, but then I'll adjust down into full downward dog, and then into a cobra. This is one of my favorite ways to start out my flow because it helps me get my back stretched out and ready to go. I move back into a child's pose, and I'll hold that for a few breaths. Most of these poses I'm holding for 5 breaths. Now, I will tell you this, I'm doing yoga outside, and it's summer, and it's hot, and everything's sticky, so there's that. Yay, summer. So now I'm going into the cat and cow. Another purpose of this video is that I'll be able to look back and see my progress, and that's something that I've kind of wanted to see because it's hard to know how you're really doing as far as correct posture and stuff that needs to be corrected without being able to see yourself all the time, and so I thought this would be one good way to do that. So I moved through several cat and cow. I don't even really know how many, but I just kind of go through it till my back feels good and comfortable. And here I'll be going back to a downward dog. I know one of my yoga instructors always said that downward dog is kind of like child's pose. When you're working through a sequence, you can always go back to those if you need a minute just to recover. So I like to go into a 3-legged dog, and this is something that we did in one of our flows that really helped me get into this next pose that I've got coming up. So the scorpion is one pose that I've been working on for a little while. I think that's the scorpion. And I always like to pull my arms out behind my back and kind of give my shoulders a good stretch and just kind of work on my balance there for a minute. So I like to do that for both sides. I do like to work on making sure that I'm getting a good arch in my back and then going into a fold just to make sure I'm getting the full range of motion for that stretch. As I come up out of this stretch, I sit back onto that hip there. I guess that would be my left hip, and then move into a hurdle stretch. I don't remember exactly what it's called in yoga, but I know it's also a hurdle stretch. And there I'm holding that for 5 breaths, and then I'll move into a I don't think you can really see it here, but I'm actually doing a half lotus. Yay for not having a camera person. There I'm just kind of making sure that my shoulders are in a good place. I do tend to carry a lot of tension in my shoulders, so I like to kind of roll my shoulders back just to make sure that I am holding them in good posture. So here I come back into cat and cow on the other side. You can see I've got a little bit more range of motion already. And then I'll move it into a downward dog. I don't know if you can hear my cat bumping around here, but if you can, that's what that noise is. And here I'm going into three-legged dog again on the other side. Pulling the knee forward, back to three-legged dog, to the opposite elbow, three-legged dog, and then into scorpion. And forward fold. Now I kind of shuffle around here a little bit just to make sure you can see the other angle of the hurdle stretch. By the way, doing yoga outside while it's really hot and you're sweating a lot and you're wearing glasses and you stick to the mat, it's like way more difficult than you would think. So this is the opposite side hurdle stretch. I like to inhale for length, then fold forward and grasp the foot, or get as close as you can with being comfortable. And then I'll move into a half lotus. And I'll hold that for a few minutes. Adjust my shoulders. And hold for 5 breaths. I like to have like the single leg hurdle stretch and then move into the double. And then I'm not sure what this stretch is called that I do here in the middle, but it is one of my favorites, and it does incorporate some range of motion. I think a couple bugs got me as well. Fun things that you don't really hear about outdoor yoga. So into the butterfly stretch. And fold. And here we go for a range of motion. I don't remember what this one is called either, but it's really good for balance and core. And hold for 5 breaths. And back to center and butterfly. I believe this one is called frog pose, and I'm actually working towards the splits slowly but surely. And sorry, I go a little bit out of frame here, but I'm down on forearms, and then with the basic frog pose, and you can just kind of scoot your legs out as comfortable to get a deeper, better stretch. Then I kind of bring my feet in behind me to recover. I do like to do that particular stretch in preparation for going into a crow. So what I'm doing here are all the stretches that I like to do leading up to a good crow. So some of those will be like sumo here. I like to start out very wide and then walk my feet in a little bit just to make sure I'm getting the full range and my hips are open. I just kind of sway a little bit because thighs, yay, and getting them into a comfortable position. Then kind of as I settle, I'm also making sure I'm pressing my knees back with my elbows. This is a really good, this for me has been huge as far as working on opening my hips. And then going out, this is another one I've been working on, a wide leg stance for open hips as well, working towards the splits again. So at that point I actually have my forehead rested on my hands, and just hold that for a few seconds and walk it out. So here I'm actually getting ready to go into crow pose. So the difference between crow and crane is with crow your arms are more bent at like a 90-degree angle, and your toes are touching. With crane, your arms are actually straight. So I haven't actually mastered crane, but I am making really good progress with the crow pose. Hold for 5 breaths. And when you're coming out of crow pose, one thing I did learn is that you want to do that slowly. I actually like to stay in like a forward fold or something similar, gradually come out of legs bent. Otherwise, the rush of blood, some dizziness can ensue. And this is one thing I did identify that I need to work on, is making sure that instead of my legs and butt poking out so far, I need to be more grounded over with my hips more over my feet. So here I'm going into some more poses for balance. A tree pose. And hold for 5 breaths. I also go into a modified eagle. I haven't quite got the bent knees in my eagle pose yet, but working towards that. I don't remember what this one's called, but we do it in class a lot, and I really have had a hard time with balance there, so I started working on it a bit more. And then being able to extend the leg and hold for 5 breaths. So I work through those 4 poses, tree pose, eagle, bent knee, and then leg extended, each of them for about 5 breaths. And then for the other side, the same sequence, tree pose, and then modified eagle. I'm pretty sure I totally jacked up the arms on this. Like, that should be the easiest part, but no, because I'm good like that. Bent leg. I should probably look that up and find out exactly what it's called, but I'm going to call it bent leg for right now. And then leg extended. in here, I'm going to go into some wide leg poses and work my way into some warrior. So forward fold, again, hands on the mat. And that's actually working towards getting my elbows through my legs to the other side, making good progress there. I think you can start to see I'm like really starting to sweat at this point. And this is, I believe, Warrior 2. I think Sky Archer, maybe? No, that's not Sky Archer. I'll have to look that one up. But yay for lunges. I like to crisscross the arms, working towards an open chest. And those are some really good poses for that, as well as getting flexibility in the hips and legs. And then switch hands. Really good for balance as well. And then into a triangle pose. And then humble warrior. This is actually one of my favorites. Such a good stretch for not just your back, but also your legs. And so good for balance. As you can see there, still working on the balance piece. Then switching sides. Warrior 2. I really need to look up more of these poses and like know what they're called, but whatever, we'll get to that. Working for open chest, opposite side. Switching arms. Humble warrior. And then into triangle. I kind of reach through there. I always like to come back to center once I've done stretches to one side or the other, and I've done both sides just to make sure, I don't know, I feel more balanced and centered when I do, so that's something that I do. A wide leg forward fold. And I'm going to go back into another forward fold. Stretch out the sides first. Just kidding. Now I'm gonna go into a forward fold. Watch out for bugs. And take off my glasses. I always have to take off my glasses before I go into a bound forward fold. Inhale for length and fold. whenever I wear a headset and I'm listening to music and I do this pose, it like always starts shutting off my music. It's so weird. Like for some reason it causes a lot of interference with my wireless headset, but I know that you were dying to know that. So now I'm gonna go into a seated fold. And this has been doing wonders for my back. I was talking to my chiropractor and she was saying that she could really tell the difference with the way that my bones and joints moved and stuff because of doing yoga. She said it was super good for me. So here I go into kind of a boat pose / V-sit, and then I'll work into a full V-sit. And then moving into a bound V-sit. It's really hard to keep balanced, especially outside, because the ground isn't level. You could see there my back kind of bowed for a second and I had to recover and get everything lined up there. So that's one thing to think about when you are choosing a place to do yoga outside, is to make sure that the ground is as level as possible. And here as I'm wrapping up, I'm just going into basic restful pose. Recover for a moment. And this is something I actually picked up from the class. Our instructor always allows at least a minute at the end of class for us to just absorb the practice and kind of be restful and static. So I start wiggling my fingers and toes and then coming up to a seated position. And namaste. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you have a great week.